Okay, so if you walk away with nothing else, the key point that I will drive home is that every customer interaction, anytime you have an employee from your organization interacting with a customer, it is an opportunity to build a profitable relationship. So I will tell you that I'm not alone in this. You'll see that McKinsey recently released a report saying that many companies are starting to turn their inbound call centers into powerful engines for growth. Right, this speaks to training individuals that are currently in your organization and giving them the skills they need to basically expand beyond their current skill set and start moving into business development. This is a very interesting article by CIO Magazine. 60% of technical job descriptions nowadays include the necessity for business skills and soft skills, 60%. So the days of just being a techie and being able to solve a specific question to move on are over. So as I said earlier, this is really going to be the crux of our discussion. The customer relationship cycle is what we use to illustrate a prospective customer's perception of you, your organization, your salespeople throughout the sales process. So that the two axes involved here are the trust and the interest that this prospect shows in you and your organization along the whole sales cycle. So what I'm going to do is map out where we see soft sell coming in to help add to the sales cycle. So here's a typical selling situation, right? You have a customer. In one way or another, they've interacted with a salesperson. They've either been cold called, they went to a trade show. In some way, they've become interested in your organization and the services you have to offer. They tend to be very skeptical up front because most people distrust salespeople. It's just kind of the nature of the perception of that profession. And only over time and demonstration of value does the prospect then begin to start showing more trust and understand that there actually may be a proposed solution that's going to help them. So if all goes well, the customer actually chooses you as their vendor. And at this point, the close of the deal, it is the highest point in which the customer and the organization interact. This is the moment of hopeful excitement in which the person who's finally made this emotional buy and reasoned the purchase has decided, okay, you're the vendor I want to work with. Here's what typically happens next. Typically, you have a salesperson with a hunter mentality who feels that his or her deal is done, and they move on to the next opportunity. And you have a customer at this point that basically feels, quite frankly, abandoned, because normally at this point the relationship that was built and all the effort, expense, and time that went into that initial sale has now been moved off to another part of the organization. This is a very critical point in the customer relationship cycle. Typically, this is where it breaks. So what we're proposing is that if you train the individuals who then own the customer relationship after the initial sale with the correct skills to add business value to that relationship, you can continue to grow that relationship and, in fact, open an opportunity for additional value-added products and services. So here's the analogy I love to use. Think of it as farming, right? Your salespeople spend a lot of time, money, and effort out looking for the most valuable seeds to plant. They finally close the deal, plant the seeds, and they're moving on to the next fresh field. It's then up to your non-sales staff to properly tend that crop and harvest the bounty. So here's the key point. If your non-sales business development staff are trained to involve themselves in the business process, they can actually expand the relationship beyond the initial efforts that were put in place by the initial salesperson. This is critical because you then expand the perception of trust beyond that one individual, that salesperson, who either moves on and or maybe even leaves your organization, and now they have a perception of trust and value for your entire organization. And what this leads to is more brand loyalty, and the perception of a long-term value is going to begin earlier. In other words, every account has revenue maximized. So here's the bottom line. What do? The customer relationship cycle? Do everything possible to not break it, right? The best way you can do that is to manage the cycle at all points in the process, not just the initial sale, but continue to add value after the fact. So use your silent sales force. That's what I like to call them. Use them the same way you would use your direct sales force. Train these employees to participate in the sales process so that you can avoid that customer disillusionment I talked about earlier. If you do this, your customers are going to reach a much higher level of perceived value and much quicker. So what kind of companies, industries, organizations would most benefit from this kind of specialized sales training? In general, it's been our experience that it's companies that have ongoing support projects, people embedded on site, project managers, consultants, tech support, customer service, any kind of ongoing relationship between your employee and your customer can be maximized for business development. In particular, it's very useful when you have what I call a hunter-based sales force. These are individuals that are out looking for new business, and just that is their primary goal. Look for new business, move on. Look for new business, move on. What a lot of organizations don't take the time and effort to do is to analyze the cost up front that it takes to get that initial customer. And it's by far the most expensive part of the process. At that point, you want to train individuals that own the account after the fact to continue to build on that initial effort and trust. So who's best suited? As I said, probably people in any kind of service or support role. We deal with installers all the way to plumbers. I recently had an engagement with a large multinational law firm. They wanted their junior associates out going to networking events and looking for business to bring back to the law firm. So this is a new thing for professionals to embrace business development. They don't like to call it selling because that's beneath them, but business development is exactly what's necessary if they're going to continue to grow their firms. So anyone, as I said, that interacts with a customer on a daily basis has an opportunity to upsell, cross-sell, and or look for additional leads for the sales force. So if I was going to summarize, what would this mean to your business if all of your frontline employees could find new business for your organization? If you could generate more repeat business and deepen your customer loyalty? If you could increase your sales force without increasing sales headcount or sales expenses? Bottom line, you turn your cost centers into profit centers. So I want to give you a little bit about soft sell training proper, my organization. Our sole purpose, we are dedicated to training non-sales staff to contribute to the bottom line. We don't really focus on the direct sales force. Our primary focus is the non-sales individuals within your organization. So how can we help? Well, we train your non-sales personnel to find new business, to educate your customers, and to act appropriately when they are in upsell and cross-sell opportunities. I was recently talking to a VP of services for a company here in town, and he gave me a great quote. He said, I want my people to stop seeing their job description as how fast can I close this ticket to how well can I educate the customer. And I thought that was brilliant because that succinctly captured what we're trying to do. So what's unique about soft sell? Well, everything we do is customized. A lot of times I get asked, well, what industry do you specialize in? We don't really specialize in an industry. The concept skills that we sell are universal to any industry. We then customize the material, the role play, the tests, the games, etc., to that specific industry so that it speaks to the people that are learning. And we make sure that we deliver it without a lot of sales speak. It's not delivered the way a typical sales training company delivers sales training. There's not a lot of high-energy, testosterone-driven content. The hunters love that stuff. You do that for a customer service individual, a tech support individual, they're going to dry up and blow away. So we make sure that we deliver the content, which is why we call it soft sell, in a voice that is compatible with the way they see the world. The crux or core of how we do our training is based on understanding personality styles, particularly how they relate to selling, because one of the primary obstacles and or objectives that we have to overcome very early on in training these individuals is for them to get comfortable with the word selling and their perception of a salesperson. The way we do that is by helping them understand their own personality types, how they see the world, and how they would adjust in a selling situation. We also help them understand the way salespeople see the world and why, to them, they may perceive salespeople as pushy or obnoxious, but it's actually just their personality type that drives them to be that way. And by analyzing these personality styles and behavioral styles, we enable these two organizational units to start communicating with each other and actually foster the team selling environment. Thank you very much for your time.